Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July edition of Techspert Talks. I'm Troy Rainey, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today's presentation is Upgrading Postgres Repository Troubleshooting with our own Sebastian Linzer. Sebastian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name is Sebastian. I'm working as a principal technical engineer within the Qlik support organization. My major subjects in Qlik Sense Client Managed and Qlik Cloud, and I have been around with Qlik for 7 years now.
Great. Today, Sebastian's going to talk us through all about the repository database and the upgrade process for that and the tools that are involved. We're also going to dive into how to resolve some issues that we've seen customers encounter along the way. Now, Sebastian, what is the repository database in Qlik Sense, and what does it have to do with Postgres?
Our Postgres database, which is also called the Qlik Sense repository database, is the heart piece of Qlik Sense. It holds the configuration settings, the user information, data connections, application data, and app objects, while you also have the application file on disk as a complement to the data in the database.
Okay, so Qlik Sense stores all that important information in the repository database, and that database is an instance of Postgres.
Exactly. Just to make it clear again, the application metadata is in the database, while the application data itself is in the binary folder.
Okay. So what versions of Postgres should we be aware of, since this session is all about upgrading?
So if we go very long back in the past, if you have installed Qlik Sense in a version before February 2021, you would have most likely got a 9.6 database during the installation.
Because that came with the installer.
Exactly. We had once the switch from synchronized to shared persistence, where we for a short time had a 9.3 database. Then we moved to 9.6, and all versions starting with May 2021, we used 12.5 up to the August 2023 version, where we then exchanged 12.5 with 14.8.
Okay. And I see on the roadmap we'll be moving to a more recent version in the near future. And in the final release column, those are the dates when Postgres will no longer support those versions. So that's a reason for the upgrade, right?
Exactly. That's one of them. Sometimes you also get a couple of more features which we can utilize, but the end of life is the pushing factor here.
Okay. What are the prerequisites before starting this upgrade process?
Always important, take it in admin mode when you run the upgrade. You need to have enough space on your local disk.
Right, for the backup and all the installer files. About how much?
At least to have 3 times that much space as you had initially. You need some time. It doesn't go in 10 seconds. And if you are on an unsupported version, you might need to upgrade to a supported version first. February 2022 is the magic number where you can use QPI to migrate your database.
And what is the QPI tool?
The QPI is also known as the Qlik Postgres installer.
Okay. And what is that used for?
That is a tool which will help you to move the embedded database into a standalone database.
Of course, Qlik Sense can work with a standalone database, but what are some reasons to move to a standalone repository instead of the bundled one?
Yeah, you will gain a bit more flexibility. You can install the next minor release update on it.
All right, like we showed before in that chart, like 14.12 or 12.19. Okay.
Also cannot upgrade within the Qlik Sense installation between the 12 and the 14 database.
Okay, so basically moving from the bundled database that comes with the installer of Qlik Sense to a standalone repository, that just makes administration easier when it comes time to upgrade.
Yes.
And where do you get the QPI tool?
You can simply click here on the download page. You would go to support, product downloads, Qlik downloads. You would go here to search all, search here for Post.
Oh, there it is.
The Qlik Postgres installer. You can select and you can download.
So in the demo you've prepared, what version of Postgres will we be upgrading from and to today?
For this, we can simply check here.
Oh, cool. So I see we're upgrading Postgres 12.5.
Yes, into version 14.8.
And what version of Qlik Sense are you running here?
I'm running February 2023.
Okay, so we've got Qlik Sense February 2023 with the bundled 12.5 database, and we're going to be upgrading just the database to 14.8 using that QPI tool.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's the first step?
The first step is stop the services. Only the database service should be running.
Okay.
Go to our Postgres installer, right-click, go to Properties, unblock it.
And what is that? Is that a security feature that blocks it?
Yes, so if you download something from the internet, your policies might bring this little checkbox up.
Okay, and that would prevent certain files from installing.
Yes, so it's important that you really check that. Run as admin. We click yes here. We get the upgrade Postgres database message.
All right. It recognizes that you've got the bundled 12.5 version of Postgres, and it's going to upgrade it to 14.8. Okay.
Yes. So we click on this one. And now we have two small documents to read.
Some light reading.
We have it once on the help side, but we also have the article in the community. So either of those two pages are fine.
Yeah, I like the knowledge base article just because it has images and details to follow along with each step.
The customer agreement, click here and hit next. You need to enter the super user password, which is the Postgres user.
Right, the same one that was used during installation.
It will ask you where you want to backup. That will be a full dump of your existing database. Then the new installation. Important is to not choose a folder inside your Qlik Sense installation.
Okay, so as long as it's not program files /Qlik, we're okay.
Exactly. The data folder in the embedded installation is in C program data, but you could have it everywhere else as well to get more free space on the C drive after the migration.
Okay.
So now we hit next and then upgrade. On the left side, you have the Postgres executable. Is the version we use to install the database.
Okay. Okay, so it's finished. What would be the next step after running the installer?
The next step is check in services, and we scroll a little bit up. Now we did get a Postgres service, and if we double click on this one, the folder we choose at the beginning of the installation, where it starts the database with, and then if we scroll a little bit to the right, we will see the data folder we chosen is now a C program files Postgres 14 data.
Okay, so what's next? Should we go to the QMC and test it out?
Yeah. Everything seems to be working. We should at least trigger one reload.
Sure, get some basic functionality here.
In the meantime, go to our unbundling article. We did the upgrading step. You can also use QPI to install a standalone database before you even start installing Qlik Sense, and it will pre-fill automatically the 4 databases.
Okay, so one advantage with using the QPI installer is that it builds those databases that Qlik Sense requires, and that sets it apart from just a standard installer from Postgres.
That's correct. And it also generates you the Qlik Sense repository user, so you don't have to take care of this one either.
Cool.
Now I scrolled a little bit faster down to the bottom. We are already at step 12. On the RIM nodes, restart your services as well. If we would have a RIM node installation, we would have stopped every node first, change the database, and then start them up.
Okay.
Validate that this folder exists. In our case, XX would be 12.5.
Okay, let's double check.
Postgres, and yes, we do have a 12.5 deprecated.
Okay, so it's our old 12.5 folder just renamed.
You cannot start the database service because the data folder has been renamed.
That's nice to know that there's built-in fail-safes.
In the backup folder, we do have a full backup of the database and all the users in the database. And we can now delete the Qlik Sense repository database service so that we just would have the Postgres x64 itself. For this, we go to the package cache folder and search for Postgres. The old one here, that's the 9.6 installation. You only have one installed at a time. We came from a 12.5 database, so we can deinstall this one. So it will take off Postgres 12.5. We go back to that article.
Yeah, what's the next step?
You have to take the newest version, 12.5. So we go back to package cache, Postgres again. We do open file location. right-click, copy. CMD prompt, run as admin. Don't take PowerShell. Right-click, paste. Point 17, reinstall. For the moment, since we are still in February 2023, we have to use the 12.5 binary version. Paste this one in. It will automatically install in silent mode Postgres 12.5, so you don't get the Qlik Sense repository database service back. And we also specified the installation folder.
What is the purpose of running this command again?
You get the binaries for Postgres back, but you don't get the Qlik Sense repository database service back. If we go to repository again, we see now we do have a Postgres folder again. In this one, we have all the Postgres binaries we need to communicate with the database.
Okay.
One weird thing, we were before in this add remove software view, and you saw we had February 2023 and the object bundle. If we refresh here, you will see we have now Postgres 12.5, the MSI package we just reinstalled.
Okay.
And we do have a Postgres 14, which is the Postgres installer from Postgres itself. The PostgreSQL 125 will disappear the next time you upgrade Qlik Sense.
Okay, then the unbundling is complete now. Can you show us how to upgrade the standalone repository database 14.8 to the latest 14 version of Postgres?
We would go to the Postgres homepage.
Okay.
We go then to the latest 14 and download the Windows x86 64 version. We downloaded this file from the internet. We do actually unload again. We, of course, want to stop all those services.
Okay, so we stopped all the services, including Postgres, and then we run the upgrade setup tool you just downloaded from Postgres to install the latest version of 14.
Exactly. We select all the tools available, and it already says, oh, look, an existing Postgres has been found at C Program Files 14. This installation will be upgraded.
Great, exactly what we wanted.
It will still keep the standard port 4432.
It's picked up all the Qlik settings. That's great.
And we just hit next. So we can just finish this off. So we need to start up the database. We start up the service dispatcher. We start up the repository service. Now go ahead and start the rest of the services.
Can you tell just from looking at the log folder that everything is working as expected?
Yes. So if you don't see any date here at the end, then that is a good thing. If we hit here a restart on proxy and we go back to this folder, we will see that it creates the same file with a date and timestamp when the restart happened. And then once the system is started up, it copies those files over to archived logs.
That's interesting.
This one is now listening on 443 and proxy is running.
Great. Shall we test it out again?
Then we are in and we can now see
our apps.
We even have our tasks, which still succeeded. We can go to this test app and open it up.
All right, it opens up and everything looks like it's working.
Everything seems to be working fine.
Great. What are some common issues that customers might run into?
Problem could be that the Postgres 14 service doesn't start up.
Okay. How would you roll back to the previous version in this scenario?
I would go in here, just change the path here to make it not start up, but there are other reasons why I just wanted to show it in theory.
Sure.
So I would put this one to manual, then back to my Qlik Sense repository database service. It will search the PG control, go quickly to this folder. That is here, so that is fine. I scroll a little bit more to the right and see here is my data folder. That is not existing.
Okay, so to start using the old service, you have to rename that folder to 12.5 again.
Exactly.
Put the old service here again on important, not automatic delay, because you want to have the database starting up first.
Okay.
Say start.
Wow.
So now you have your old database back, and that is then the point where you could call us Qlik support. And we would have a look and give you some guidance how you can customize this.
Well, that's a great tip to be able to roll back and pick up where you left off and see if you can troubleshoot what went wrong. What would be an upgrade scenario that could cause problems?
The patch.
Oh, so we've got a patch there. Okay.
We have a patch there. We used QPI, and we're now upgrading to November. That's usually a guaranteed recipe for failure.
Okay, so if you're upgrading Qlik Sense Enterprise from a patched version after using the QPI tool, what happens?
Because the November edition couldn't really uninstall the patch when some files were locked. Most likely says, I'm unable to uninstall the patch. Please deinstall it manually.
Okay.
Now you saw nothing was moving. Now we just shut things down. Let's just restart.
Okay.
To get the running processes off.
So we've restarted the machine.
Now let's just start up services to have a look.
Okay, so the repository database service is still there. It's set to automatic.
Exactly, because now it did actually try to restore the service, but you still see that you have the other service also, which is already running.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go into the repository database service and take it off. We have a very great article. Scroll a long way down. We are on the upgrade process, which says here upgrading an existing database, and uninstall the old Qlik Sense repository service and reinstall the Postgres binaries.
These are steps that we didn't follow that got us the error.
Exactly.
Here we search for PostgreSQL. We have a dream scenario. We have Postgres 12.5, another time 12.5, and once 40. Those two are from our original installation.
Okay.
This is Postgres 9.6, Postgres 12.5.
Those came in when we installed Qlik Sense May 2023.
Exactly. And those here are from November. We need to get rid of 12.5.
How do you know which one to remove, or should we remove both?
We will definitely try both. This action is only valid for installed products.
Okay.
So we take this one and do an uninstall here. And then our Qlik Sense repository database service disappears in the list of services. Now we need to get the old May 2023 release back, but without the database. For this one, we select the other Postgres 12.5, copy the path, open CMD as admin. We do a cd into the path, and it gives us here the command to install it back. Just copy, paste it.
And this is the command that's going to reinstall those binaries, but not the database?
Exactly.
And check this. It says here skip install db service equal 1. And it has a parameter for the install there. We leave it as is. You will see when we go to services, the service is gone.
All right.
When we go now to C program data, Qlik Sense repository Postgres, there is no 12.5, 14, or 9.6 folder here, so we are good on that point. We go to program files, Qlik Sense repository Postgres. We have the binaries which we wanted, and they are from the 12th of May, so we are back in the May release.
All right. So now if we ran the upgrade tool of Qlik Sense, everything should move smoothly?
Exactly, but just double check if we had any kind of patch installed. We see there's no patch installed anymore. So if we now go in and...
Yep, running the upgrade again. Uh-oh, that's an interesting error.
Yeah, so that's cool. Let's see what the log says.
Okay, cool. This is troubleshooting just exactly what customers might deal with. Like
and
you said.
We did try to break it, right? So we broke it good. So if you sort after date modified. And
right, this is the installer log.
Yes, and now if we go to the end, now it says localhost port 4443 repository cannot be reached for licenses, QSMQ, and send services. Yeah. So we check quickly in local security policy.
So what are you looking for in these security options?
For that one, you would check is FIPS enabled or not. If it is enabled, you disable it. So because you cannot use our installer when FIPS is enabled, you would here say user input is not required.
Okay, so shall we try the upgrade again?
We can also, for fun, just connect with pgadmin, just to double check if those databases really are there. Yeah, see, now the databases were there.
Great, it's working as expected. So just to clarify, if you have used the QPI tool to set up the standalone Postgres repository and you want to upgrade Qlik Sense Enterprise, first remove any Qlik Sense patches and disable the FIPS security policy on the installer. Then you can run the upgrade of Qlik Sense.
Exactly.
Looks like it's finished.
Good. Then we can click finish here. Yeah, you see the
right.
database is running and all the Qlik services are running now. If we now go back inside the QMC, and it shows November 2023. One more thing here. We have upgraded to November 2023. We finally have the 14 binaries available. It doesn't make sense to have 12.5 binaries combined with a 14 database.
Okay, so we're going to now update to the Postgres 14 binaries.
Because we have a 14 database right now.
You're right, that makes sense.
Now you uninstall 12.5. So now we will do here the same with open file location. Then do a cmd run as admin, cd paste file location. Back to the article. In there, we take now the 14 parameter. And it also says here in the article, if you have August or later.
Cool.
Now, Postgres, you see we have a 14 folder in here now.
All right, so now it'll use the 14 binaries instead, and we're using the same version binaries as our database.
Exactly. Now we need to open something like Notepad++. Copy the path.
So there are some configuration settings that need to be edited?
Exactly. We have a parameter, the Postgres home, in all our configure service files. We say find in files, put this in what we just copied. We say our filter is star.ps1 and our directory is program files Qlik Sense or whatever directory you have installed Sense in. You say find all and you find 9 hits and do it the way I did it. Find first and then replace. Don't just replace up front. With those hits we have, we say now replace files. Yes. And it says here 9 files replaced. Now we have one more file in C program data, Qlik Sense, then QSMQ in scripts, setup database, line 13, 12.5. So we just change this to 14, press save, and we are good.
So what would happen if you didn't take this extra step of editing the configuration files?
If you try to run the setup database script here, it will just say, I cannot find the binary PSQL exe. Now we are set up for success.
Great. Sebastian, thank you very much for this, all the work you went into preparing the demo and going through all those troubleshooting steps. I think this will be really valuable for people going forward, especially when it comes time to upgrade their database.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present. Keep in mind that whenever you encounter some problems, Google for it first, because we might already have documented your solution.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And special thanks to Sebastian. We appreciate getting experts like Sebastian to share with us. Here's our legal disclaimer. And thank you once again. Have a great rest of your day.